what makes you go back to school every time?
This life is such that you think you know as you start, then mid-course you realize there's something you didn't know, and you have to go back to the people that have the knowledge to sharpen your mind a bit further. Sometimes I remember the story. There's a story that is given in the book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a story of a young man.
By Stephen Covey?
By Stephen Covey, yeah. It's a story of a young man who met an old man trying to saw down a tree. He was trying to cut it down using the saw. And the young man suggested to the old man, I think that if you sat down to sharpen your saw, you would cut your tree faster. And this man, looked at the young man and felt, that's a stupid idea. Sitting down to sharpen the saw is a waste of time. I should spend my time on cutting down the tree. And so he didn't listen. The young man moved to another old man who was cutting down a tree and gave the same idea to him. And that man listened, and he spent 15 minutes, 30 minutes sharpening the saw. And when he went down to cut down the tree, he was able to cut his tree down faster than the other man. So I think knowledge is that aspect of sharpening the saw. It makes you a bit more efficient in your job, in your business, in what you're doing. Then also, like I've been telling you at a personal level, I accept that as an entrepreneur for the last 10 years, there are things I have done right, and there are things that I have made mistakes on. And for me to be able to improve myself as an entrepreneur, I have to go back and look for knowledge so that I can be able to rectify some of the mistakes that I've done in the past.
Wow, that's incredible. And I'm also impressed that you also read books. I'm impressed by people who read. Lazima ununua kitabu kila mwezi, si ati unapiga tu mzinga.
Kabisa.
I'm impressed because the more you read, the more you know. Information is power. That's what I believe. Information is power.
Yeah.
I usually say that when you wake up in the morning and you are ahead 10 miles in terms of what you know that morning or that day in the morning, that means you've beat thousands of people even before they start off their day. What it means, there's a way you'll do things differently from what, from how any other person would do it. Yeah. So that's quite incredible.
Thank you.
So what would you advise anyone who is planning to go back to school? I've been planning to go back to school for the longest time. I keep saying, pesa iko up. Start more wanaitisha karibu milioni moja. For a month. Or for 2 months.
The good thing about adult education especially is that you don't do it for anybody. You see, you're not doing it for your parents. You may have done your first diploma or first degree for your parents. You may have gone to high school for your parents. But when it comes to adult education, it is actually a choice that you make.
Kumbaru.
Yes. And this is an opportunity for you to align your academics to your areas of passion in life. You see, like now what I'm studying at USIU is a master's in counseling psychology. This is an area of personal interest. I can tell you for free that it's not an area of business for me. It's an area of personal interest. I've just been passionate about helping somebody become a better person, maximize their potential tomorrow, helping organizations to work better with people and that kind of a thing. So adult education is an opportunity for individuals to redefine themselves. You will find that there is someone who is tied up in a career that they are no longer energetic about. But it's the first job they got. But now they have an opportunity to redefine themselves through adult education. So what I will tell them is, when you're in your mid-30s, going to your 40s and 50s, that is the time when you're completely in touch with your inner self. You see, this is what tickles me. This is what I can do 365 days in a year without getting tired. And maybe the first degree that this person had done, is not in that line. So it gives them an opportunity for them to come back to life, redefine themselves, pick a completely different career path, and be able to serve the world in a different way that connects with their inner self. Yeah.
So you actually feel it makes more sense to go to school later than to go early? Because you find a lot of people are struggling because there's one thing I believe is that when a human being was created, they were never actually created for education. Yeah. They were created for self-learning, and they were created to discover the world and do things, naturally, natural instincts and all that. Yeah. And that's why there are things there are animals you don't train a bird to fly.
True.
There's nobody who has a flying school for birds, but you have flying school for human beings because you need to teach them how to fly instruments. And you find that, the education that we have as box stars. You can pick someone today from the streets, probably who has done an engineering job or school, was going to school to study engineering or even nursing or doctorship, and you come and tell them, no guys, there's no jobs in Kenya, let's come and sell cars. They tell you, no, maybe I'm an engineer or maybe I'm a doctor. And you find that these human beings then reduce themselves to those careers.
Yeah.
some other things that happen is that we give birth to children and we want them to be things that we wanted to be that we will never.
Sure.
Like you kila siku unaambia mtoto wako lazima ukuwe wakili ama ukuwe daktari. So these children grow up in school, they go to school, they get the credentials, they get the papers and all that. But you find that a human being is stuck in a vicious cycle, in a career that does not excite them.
Yeah.
Or something that does not naturally come out from them. It only comes out of school. So what would you tell people when it comes to pursuing education? What are some of the pointers that you take, when you're going to school? Considering that as well, that as people go to campus to do their degrees, most of the time they're still young. They still get excited about those things. When you're all growing up, you wanted to be engineers, you wanted to be pilots, you wanted to be doctors and all that. But we are here. Yeah. We are here talking on Facebook. Some of us are just here talking on Facebook. We never made it there. We never became pilots that we wanted to be. What would you tell someone who is getting into an entry level into education? What are some things that you'd consider before choosing a career to go and study in school?
Good. I think that's a very good question, Bitok, because a lot of people are tied up in the cocoons of their education and what they learned in campus and that kind of a thing. But I think I would take them back to the question of what was the purpose of education? Isn't education supposed to prepare us to be better people in serving our fellow human beings? Isn't education supposed to sharpen our skills, our attitudes, our talents in applying ourselves in solving the real problems that we have in society? So I would say that for this person, they need to get out of that cocoon and understand that the whole idea of education is to prepare you to be a critical thinker, a problem solver, somebody who solves problems in the society. So if where you come from a village where the biggest problem, Bitok, is water, you should be focusing on how to help that society sort out that problem of water, So I would tell that person to understand, to distill that the concept of education is to just make a human being somebody who can be able to solve a problem in a particular line. And whatever we call a profession is basically that. See, a doctor is trying to solve health problems. A counselor is trying to solve psychological problems. An accountant is trying to solve accounting problems in a business. A marketer is trying to expand the market share for the business. Every person is being sharpened along a particular line to solve a particular problem. Now, if you're not passionate about the problem that your education is solving, then you have every right to change lines. I am. See, in psychology, we are very permissive. We are the only people who allow the Pope to defect and get married. We are the only people that allow a cop to defect and become a counselor. We allow the doctors to defect and become business people. Why? Because when you have individuals doing jobs that they are passionate about, they do not get tired, you don't push them, they have the self-motivation that you need, and you definitely get better performance.
Wow. Is it ever too late to reroute?
I would say no. It's never too late. Why? Because nobody knows the day they are going to die. You could be 70, but God has another 30 years ahead of you. You could be 20, God has another 80, 90 years ahead of you. So as long as you're feeling the urge to reroute, it is never too late. Buy the first book on that particular topic that you want to align yourself to and start reading. Start aligning yourself to that side.
Unaanza na kamwanzo kwanza mahali utaipata. Yeah. That's because a lot of people wamefika mahali wamesema tumefika, wacha nimalizane tu na nikwame na mashida zangu. Tujue vile itakuwa. Alright, acha nisalimie hapa wananchi kidogo. Naona Robbie Kip anasema tuned in. Asante sana Eva Jepkema, good morning sir, watching from EMC. Asante sana mheshimiwa, good to see you. Rogers Kigan anasema tuned in from Bomet. Thank you Theophilus Kipsang. Anasema Fisher Cycle ile somewa wapi jera. Yaani nyinyi mnaonaga sijaenda kubaru. MC Kalia chairman Menokwisha Kettle Deep anasema good morning Kenyans. Good morning to you MC Kalia. Purity Tanui anasema good morning everyone. Good morning to you Purity Tanui. Shenedi Langat 035 asante sana. Kaki Faith anasema happy new man tuned in from Thika. Jane Mombe good morning. Good morning to you Jane Mombe. Ernest Cheria anasema happy new man Gerald I'm tuned in. Kana asante sana Ernest Cheria na uendelee kuchapa Azal ndugu. Joel Arama chairman wa Diaspora, the Tackle Diaspora Edition anasema good morning to you. Kirwa Kenya anasema good morning to Tackle Nicola, asante sana. Wandabwa Mukebi anasema tuned in. Victor Rop watching from Bomet County, thank you so much. Leleto Leonard Sitiene anasema good morning GB watching from Tereno Metete Nandi County, asante sana. Gili Kiboi anasema good morning Gerald tuned in from Fayetteville United States, great job with the Tackle show, I really like it. Asante sana, thank you so much Gili Kiboi, I think you for always joining us, you become a loyal fan, asante sana. Evans Cheriat Aaron anasema good morning team tackle. I'm locked at Marsabit County. Asante sana watu wa Marsabit County. Karanu Kariungi anasema tuned in on my way to Aswell. Asante sana, chope kazi. Tuamke twende kazini. Robins Ruth anasema toa kofia pasta yangu. Hiyo ni trademark. Hiyo ni trademark. Alright. Langana Matthew anasema from Nakuru, shout out to Kiblaga Drono Wesley. Ngeno Moses Maritim Philemon, second pace Lembeki Nana na Solomon Mutaka and the chief Asla. Asante sana. Bekare Kenvin anasema kakuma Turkana Tuntina. Asante sana. Sky Faye anasema good morning, watching you live nikiwa na Nyuki. Thank you Nel Chefs Murray. Good morning team Takola. Asante sana Nel Chefs Murray all the way from Diane. Rob Kibar sama tuned in. Fajab Kema good morning, so watching from EMC. Asante sana Mashimo Rojas Kiken sama tuned in from Bometho Filas. Esaita all the way from Ghana. Thank you so much Esaita for tuning in from Ghana. I really appreciate. Nathaniel Mongara and some of this discussion is up to real issues. Say I to Danson. Asante sana SG Secretary General wa ANC Nathaniel Mongare. Asante sana Alan Kemboy anasema yuko kidole kabisa. Shan Maraba anasema tuned in from Mombasa. Thank you. You said light anasema good morning to you. Kimyati Jingeno anasema good morning, tuned in from Victoria, Seychelles. Thank you so much the guys from Seychelles. I really appreciate you. Stanley Melly, routing is a necessary step every now and then, tuned in from Maryland. Thank you so much to the guys from diaspora. Painter Kip anasema hapa Tao Kenyatta tuned in. Asante sana watu wa CBD. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the tackle. Kama kawaida, when you get in, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. And after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join, like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. And after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Ndugu, kuna kitu it was starting.
Yes.
There's nothing as difficult as starting.
True.
You know, starting anything, starting a family is always crazy. You know, unaanza kufikiria sema watu watakuwa kulanga nini. Starting a business is the worst. Starting education, going to school is another thing. We all fear starting new things. We all fear getting into something new, even relationships. Unakaa unasema mtu anaweza kuwa labda anangorota usiku kama lori ya mchanga. You know, all these things. Starting is always a big problem.
Yeah.
Now, in the concept of business, starting is always the biggest problem in business. Making that first step of doing an investment or even starting a business. Hata kuna hiyo barrier ya kwanza kusema unataka kufanya biashara ya kuuza kalamu. It's always very difficult. Have you ever experienced that? Even before you talk to how do you overcome it? What do you think is what is the state of fear? Is it psychological? Is it real? What is it really?
Deep question. Starting is not easy. You know, even when we were boys, you know, we used to go and swim in the river. And you know that first dive was always very shivering. By the time you adjust to the cold waters, you would feel who is going to die first. So starting is the fear of starting is something that we live with throughout life. Anytime you want to do something new in your life, you definitely will feel that shiver of fear. You know, the questions run through your mind. Do I have the skill set? Do I have the attitude? Do I have the resources to be able to do this? And I would say that you have to train yourself to overcome this fear by actually starting. Because the only way of confronting the fear of starting anything is to actually start it and start doing it. And I would say that it takes faith, great faith, to start things, you know, to start a business. You know, you open a shop, you don't know whether anybody is going to come and buy from you. Yeah. You started the taco, you didn't know whether anybody would tune in to watch it. Yeah, starting a business is much more freaking. You know, you could lose money, and we've lost money by starting businesses. You've lost time, you've lost energy. You look at, you've done something for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and you're asking yourself, what do I have out of it? I started it, but what do I have out of it? And people fear starting for very many different reasons. Of course, number one is the fear of failure itself. You know, if I start, will I succeed? Yeah. There's also past failure. You know, there's somebody who has started something that didn't work, and they still have that wound. They carry that wound in their mind. They carry it in their heart. And they're like, I'm a failure. Even if I start something else, it's going to fail. If I start another relationship, it's going to fail. But I think this morning we have to make it clear that we have to live a life of experimentation. We have to encourage the spirit of experimentation. That even if you have tried something before and it didn't work, you have to keep on trying. You have to keep on starting, restart. You know, if you're passionate about a business, try to ask yourself, what did you do wrong in the first business, and try to do it right in the second business. But we really have to encourage people in society to start, to take the first action of starting to do that which they have in their minds and in their hearts. Yeah.
So you actually feel you actually, as a psychologist, do you actually feel fear is entitled, or fear is it's acceptable to be fearful?
it is natural to be fearful. Think of a baby taking the first step, talk. I mean, you don't expect him to take it on very confidently. He's going to feel that fear. And when you take that context to every other first step you will ever take in your life, you will feel that same fear. But growing up is actually about confronting our fears.
Our fears, yeah.
Somebody is afraid of committing into a relationship and getting married. Somebody is afraid of getting children because they feel they do not have the resources that they need to bring up children. We are not saying that people get into things blindly, talk. But what we are saying is that you can't have it all cut out. This is the part of life that you have to step into by faith. Just like when the children of Israel left Egypt, they didn't have the whole game plan, isn't it? There was the aspect of experimentation, and there's the aspect of taking risk. That is part of growing up, and that is part of living. But if you're waiting to have the entire game plan on how the business is going to play out when you start, you're waiting to have the whole game plan on how the marriage is going to play out when you start, you're waiting to have a whole game plan on how you will perform as a parent, you will never have that. Life is about exploring, it's about taking risk, it's about starting, it's about learning how to swim by actually jumping into the swimming pool. Yeah.
All right. The next question I want to ask you is, what do you need even before you start? What do you need to consider before you start? What do you need to consider?
For example, if you're starting a business,
because it's also very possible to start off on the wrong things.
Yeah.
You can start off on a disaster.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you really need to consider before you even think about starting off on anything?
Good. I think the first thing you want to consider is, why are you starting? Yeah. Are you starting for your own selfish gain? Are you starting for a win-win gain? Are you starting because there is a need? Are you starting because you're passionate about it? You need to justify that question within yourself, of the question of why. Why are you starting? Start with why. Yeah. For example, if you want to start a business, why are you starting that business? Make some bucks out of it? Or are you starting because your friend also started a business? Are you passionate about it? Yeah. Why? Because you will find that in entrepreneurship, you need more than money to run a business. You can have all the money. There are people that have lots of money in their bank accounts, but they could never run even the simplest business. Because for you to operate a business, you need more than money. You need to be passionate about it. You need to connect your inner self to the business that you actually do. So before you start, ask yourself why you're starting. Does it connect with your purpose, with your inner person? Is it something that you're passionate about? What problem are you coming to solve that other people have not solved? Because I have seen people who do things, on a competitive basis. Somebody starts a business because they think they can compete with their boss. Somebody gets married because they feel, I'm fed up with mom or dad, yeah, and I need to prove to them that I'm a grown-up. So they get married to the next person that is available. Yeah, I think it's an issue of asking yourself why you're starting, and if you can be able to answer the why, then you will be able to find the what you need, the when you need to start, and all these other things that you need for you to succeed in something.
All right. Christopher Sang says locked from Kansas City, USA. Thank you so much. Mwalemu Manyumba says good morning from Nyali constituency. Good morning to you. Good to see you. I think Jared Misango says he's watching from the USA. Kathleen Kate, good morning. Kathleen Kefaki Benz, good show from Parklands. And Santa Joja Iraki, hello Kenya. Painter Sama Pato Kenya Tarot Sana. What does it? How do you overcome fear? Yes, we've agreed. We have accepted this fear, and it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to get scared. Then how do you overcome this?
The basic example I gave, go to a swimming pool. The first dive is always fearful. How do you overcome it? By diving in. You have to dive into that swimming pool and the fear is going to disappear. But I think there is other things that you can be able to do for you to reduce the fear of what you want to do. For example, if you want to start a business, hanging out with people who are running businesses will definitely dissolve some of the fears that you have, listening to their experiences, getting someone to walk with you that journey of starting a business could reduce your fear of starting that business. Now, remember, fear is a concept in the mind, and it is based on the worst case scenario. Yeah? When your mind is in a state of fear, you're focusing on what can go wrong. Now, if you can train your mind to focus on what can go right, and one of the gifts that we have as human beings is the ability to imagine. There's no other living organism that is able to imagine. Do you know that? A donkey cannot imagine being a horse.
Oh, really?
A goat can never imagine being a cow. But Bitok can imagine being a pilot. Or you can imagine being the president of Kenya.
I can also imagine being a donkey.
And you see now, if you imagine yourself being a donkey, that feeds your fear, right?
Yeah.
That demotivates you and that sucks your energy. But if you imagine yourself being on the rise, on the better side, then that gives you positive energy for life. And that energizes you to overcome your fear. So for you, for example, to have the courage to start a business, your mind has got to focus a bit more on what if it works? Because fear is based on what if it goes wrong, and it could go wrong. But faith, positive energy, is going to be based on what if it works. And when you focus on that side of what if it works, then you will find that it is easier for you to overcome that fear of starting.
All right. So now you've started. Lucia, she still internalizes what's going on around here. You know, she's been away for 2 years now. So now you've started.
Yeah.
Now, there's a book I was reading about business, and you know, research says that most businesses collapse within the first 3 months and 8 months. Between those who are resilient and have collapsed at 8 months, but most of the business collapse within the first 3 months because most of these businesses maybe are started on, you know, on steroids, on mental steroids. Like, you think you're investing, maybe there's someone who was saying alisema ataliaka 30k, alikuwa anataka 5k every month. Then, you know, you get disappointed the first month, you're already done. Most businesses collapse within the first 3 months. Those that become more resilient collapse at 8 months, right?
Yeah.
So you've started. Umeanza. And there's already data that either you're going to collapse within the first 3 months or the first 8 months. Now, this journey in between, that the incubation period, how do you navigate around it? This is a time when you're going to be hit, first of all, by the reality.
Yeah.
Ya kwamba kumbe biashara si ping pong. It's not a gamble where you put in money and expect to gain.
Yeah.
Second thing will get you is that kumbe kuna kitu inaitwa bills.
Yeah.
You know? The third thing will tell you that there's more to business than transactions.
True.
How do you survive through the incubation period?
You have to be very realistic when you're managing a business. This is a game of mathematics. Yeah, you have sales, you have expenses. But Bitok, I think one of the mistakes that people make, particularly in our setup, in the Kenyan setup, is that we expect our businesses to be profitable too early. Yeah, and I do know that we have a limit of resources, and therefore we expect that the business is going to be, you know, to break even and start giving you profit as quickly as possible. But I think that over expectation is what discourages a lot of people. I think we need to encourage ourselves to understand that a business sometimes does take time before it is profitable. Yeah, just as the concept of bringing up a child. By the time you start sending your child to the shop or to do something for you, you've put in a lot of effort and a lot of energy. So the way to survive is to have a long-term attitude. Is to understand that this is a tree that you have planted. It can take 1 year, it can take 2 years, 3 years, before it starts giving you fruits. But the day it starts giving you fruits, it could give you fruits for a long time. So I think it's just an issue of mindset. Yeah, Bitok, if you're to think about businesses, you know, the most formidable and long-term businesses, you will find that sometimes you have to be prepared psychologically to understand that this is like bringing up a child. By the time you send him to the supermarket for the first time, you may be required to put a number of years of work into it.
Yeah. So when you're starting a business, you need to have a long-term vision. So when you talk about long-term, I'm starting business today.
Yeah.
All right. Because last time we talked about the issue of resources when you're starting off. So probably when you're starting off, you're starting on a very lean budget as well. Yeah. So how do you think long-term on a short-term budget?
That is actually a very big challenge. Yeah, that's a very big challenge because, you know, thinking long-term on a short-term budget, and even leave alone that, thinking long-term in a market that finances short-term. Because one of the problems that we have with the capital structures of this country is that many people, including, you know, very formidable financial institutions, are not willing to listen to a vision that goes down 20 years, 30 years down the line. You know, they want to finance businesses for 1, 2 years, 6 months. You know, if you look at the loan repayment, the loan terms that are available, you will find that the longest for a business many times is going to be 5 years. And 5 years can be very short in business. But I think as a business, you have to have a strategy for everything. You have to have a strategy on capital. You have to have a strategy on marketing. You have to have a strategy on product. And you have to diversify your products offering to ensure that you have some products that are able to meet your short-term needs and that you have other products that are able to meet your long-term needs in terms of revenue and generating profits for the business. But I do acknowledge that this is a big challenge for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs could do better if they had capital that gave them enough leg room to plan for 10 years or even 15 years. Yeah.
All right. Once again, this is we are with Sir Eric Mwangi, CEO of MARIDADY Motors. CEO of MARIDADY Motors, MARIDADY Motors iko pale Kiambu Road, karibu na Sierra Mall, opposite Total Ridgeways. That is MARIDADY Motors. Pia kuna wale inaitwa Sparkling Motor Spa pale Sierra Mall, behind it. Unapeleka gari pale inangarishwa kabisa. Moja kupeleka gari mahali inasuguliwa na gunia. Peleka MARIDADY Motors, that is Sparkling Motor Spa. Alafu pia kuna MARIDADY Motors Sacco. Hapo unaenda unaweka pesa 50% ya the value of the car that you want to buy, and then mambo inafika, gari inafika, unaacha kuendesha Mitsubishi, unaendesha Mitsubishi, alafu unaanza kulipia pole pole. We are Eric Mwangi on the common sense. Tunazungumzia mambo ya biashara. What does it take to start? Why do you fear starting? And how does it take to sustain business? Lucia Ayiela, good morning.
Good morning, Gerald.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You've been away for 2 years.
Naona sasa umeanza kukuja vizuri. Gerald, usikuange hivyo. Na unajua leo tumekaa hapa na mtu mwenye anaweza decide, nimeona uko team Lexus, acha nikupe Lexus.
Nimeona umekuwa mpaka na round face bwana. Yala ni bwana nini?
Hii ni weight ya festivities, bado hatujarudi gym.
Ni makuku mmekula sana.
Tumekula sana, zimeumia pale Pungo Makaundi, zimeumia sana. I know ziko glad watu tumerudi Nairobi.
Good to see you. How have you been?
Good to see you too. I have I started this year with a bit of health challenges, but I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm well now.
Well, your way really prayed for you, especially your crashes here. I think they have not resolved. So salibia tuambia watu happy new year na happy month.
Happy New Year, Taklas. Happy new month. It's a new month, man. Yeah, it's been a minute. I hope you guys have been keeping well. I hope the new year is treating you well. Hata kama president wetu ametuambia he's in charge of thieves who are stealing 2 billion from us on a daily basis. Msikufe moyo. Kuna watu wengine huku nje wanafikiria njia ya kutupeleka mbele. We are not on our own. We can do something about it, and we'll do something about it. So let's keep being resilient, because as Kenyans we have that spirit of resilience, manze. Like sisi ni wale watu tumekula aflatoxins, tumekula mercury, tumekula mchele ya plastic, tumewekewa morphine kwa nyama, watu wamelewa turpentine, but we are still here, you know, we are still here, we are still healthy, we are still alive, we are still pushing forward. So let's keep the Kenyan spirit going.
Habari ya kongamano?
Kongamano tuko wazima, tunaendelea vizuri. Kazi huko imekuwa mingi, so mkiniona nimepotea hapa na pale, mjue kidogo ni kazi ya kufix Kenya tunafanya.
Unajua kazi ikikuwa mingi na maisha pia utongolo inakuwa mingi.
Pesa otas, Gerald.
Pesa iko mingi. What have you started this year? And how does it feel starting?
Oh well, 2021 has started rightly for me. I'd say it's I would want to say that I have a bit more of personal clarity on what I want to do with my life, and there's something wonderful that I've discovered. You know, when you read history books, you hear that South Korea set out to be a manufacturing hub. So did China. Singapore set out to be a tourism hub. You know, all these countries that are high income economy countries, they set out with a vision to be something. And this is something that we as Kenyans are lacking. You know, what do we want to be? Do we want to be a tourism hub? Do we want to be a manufacturing hub? Do we want to be a corporate business hub? Do we want to be an economic hub in Africa? Do we want to be a mining hub? This is, I feel like this is a conversation that Kenyans need to have, because we don't have a vision. So every leader that comes comes with anything that they think upon. There's nothing that we are working towards.
There's no continuity.
There's no continuity. We don't have politics of progression. We have politics of succession, whereby you finish your term, I come, I start my term. Rather than continue with the things that you had started, I put a stop to that and I start doing my other things, and it just goes on and on and on. So after 10 years, after mtu amemaliza term yake, the project ends there. It never continues. It's because we are not working towards any specific goal. Nothing at all. And we can actually be all these things. We can be a technological hub in Africa. We can be a tourism hub in Africa. We can be a manufacturing hub in Africa. We just have to pick. We just have to pick and set our minds to it, so that any leadership that comes and they're telling us things that are not setting us on a path towards achieving the goal that we've set out, if you're not setting us on a path that enables us to become an agricultural hub, then we simply just remove you from power. You see what America did? They couldn't stand bad governance for 2 terms. 4 years, and they were like, nope, we're done. You have to go. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. By the way, thinking about it, what happened to the blueprint that was Vision 2030?
Gerald, 2030 umeenda mbali. What happened to the blueprint that was Big 4 agenda? I keep asking myself this question every day.
Because for me, the reason why I
keep
keep referring to Vision 2030, because I think it was more structured. The Big 4 agenda was just a document that told, okay, guys, we're going to do this, we're going to do 1, 2, 3 things, which was almost a duplicate of everything that has been done. There was nothing new. There was nothing inspirational about Big 4 agenda. It was about building houses, manufacturing without a structure. When you look at the Vision 2030, Kibaki really structured it. Even had a technical team that was sitting on it every time. We saw things happening. We saw Lamu Port being, groundbreaking. Konza when you talk about technological hub, we saw Konza being put up. Up to now, as much as the development really is dragged, at least you can go and count the number of blocks that have been there. I'll throw it back to Eric. But Lucia, Vision 2030, na siasa, na Big 4, and every other day I'll come today, I say, now, mimi sasa niko na Big 6. I say, you're Big 4, you're iliisha. What happened to Vision 20? Because I think that was a more sustainable blueprint.
This is why I'm telling you, Gerald, we suffer from politics of succession.
Sure.
Wakwetu, what mtu wakwetu, it's ni wetu mudhamaki, it's like this is our central kingpin. Wacha akuje. We never ever, not even once, sat down in 2012 before the 2013 elections and went like, we have a vision for this country. Is this the right person to help us achieve that vision? We never did that. It was like, oh, they are young, they are being fought, they have this nice narrative, like, whew. We basically stood for nothing, so we went with everything. And this is where the East beats us. This is where the West beats us, because look at this is the new couple. This is the newest royal couple, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. We know of them now, but this is a royal family that has been there for decades now, and the most interesting part about it is that the Windsor House does not have a drop of English blood, despite them being a royal family in Britain. They are from Germany, but you see, they had a vision of that family ruling for decades and centuries, and they've stuck to it, and they've accomplished it. I really don't know how kinship and queenships work, but trust me, I'm an avid follower of Prince Harry and the brother. It's like, oh, the royals, there's a new baby coming, It's that you have to keep it going. You have to keep it going. You have to, you see, like in business, you have to pick a thing, focus on it, be persistent at it, fail a couple of times, succeed a couple of times, then fail a couple of other times, and then finally now succeed. And you see, we never stuck to Vision 2030. It was like, oh, that has become very hard to do now. Let's do the Big 4, which is kind of simplified. But then you see, Gerald, here is what I'm saying about the Big 4 agenda. When it comes to education, assuming by 2014, if all the class 1 pupils had been given laptops and the infrastructure to continuously power these laptops had been developed between 2014 and 2020, that's 6 years, by the time COVID hits, don't you think these people would have been looking like prophets?
Yeah. It would have been a moment of glory.
COVID-19 comes. If the universal healthcare system had worked from the time of inception, by the time COVID-19 was hitting, don't you think we'll now be going like, oh my God, Uhuru is the best president we ever had in this country?
He built the hospitals.
Yeah, he built the hospital. You know, our kids never stopped learning because we had the infrastructure to do this. But oh my God, look at us now. Even in a short term, 10 years, we don't have the concentration span to focus on it. And now, like mad people, they have already switched to building bridges initiative, which apparently ni kama kikombe cha babu wa Loliondo ambacho kilikuwa kinatibu maradhi yote.
There's something happens to business, Eric Mwangi. Yeah. The thing of a vision and a plan and a blueprint on where you want to go. And the thing is, at times we all start well. Yeah. Like, okay, guys, I want to start selling cars. And then along the way, there's someone who comes now and starts selling mayai gonga karibu na kwako. And he makes more money, you know. And you say, now guys, I'll not be selling cars only. I'll also be selling mayai gonga. Remove this guy. It also happens in business. Like, we get so distracted with the original. There's no blueprint. Yeah. If you ask someone who is starting business today, what do you want to achieve in the next 10 years or 20 years? They cannot tell you. Because for them, it's about waking up in the morning, you know, going to do it, surviving for the day, and going back home, I think. And then you repeat the same thing every morning. There's no inspiration. There's no consistency. There is nothing you're working towards. Yeah. What is the danger of not having a blueprint? Because you just mentioned before we flew to Lucia, you mentioned a lot of businesses collapse because there's no plan. There's no long-term plan. What's the dangers of not having a blueprint?
I like the issues that my sister here has raised. And, you know, one of the things that she said very well is, you know, how you fail, you rise up, you fail again, you rise up, you fail. You know, we've built a culture whereby you fail in this, you go and try something else. And you see, you forget there will be a learning curve. Umeshindwa kupika ugali, sasa unataka kwenda kupika chapati. Yeah. Again, you fail in making chapati and you're like, no, let me try mitungo. You fail in that, you are like, no, let me try uji. Yeah? Eventually, you will go try and cake, and you will end up with nothing at the end of it. I think we need to encourage that culture of resilience and consistency, whereby, you know, focus on the one thing that you really want to do, perfect the art in it, learn from the mistakes that you make. If you look at the most serious companies, you will find they've also made mistakes. Yeah, by the time they get to that point of perfection, by the time you have aircraft flying from Airbus or Boeing, trust you me, they've had a number of crashes down that road, yeah, for them to have perfected that particular other they are actually doing. And even today, you find they are still on the learning curve. So we need to encourage our people to focus. You know, if you go to the jungle, talk to not clear in your mind what you're going to hunt. You know, even what weapons do you carry? What weapons do you invest in? What knowledge do you invest in? You need to go with a clear mind. I'm looking for antelopes. So you will begin to study, where are antelopes likely to be in the jungle? What weapons do I need? What will I see for me to know that there are antelopes here? And I think these concepts of leadership are also important for the nation, just like my sister says, in that we first and foremost need to agree on where is our canon? What is our canon? That place that we want this country to go to, how should it look like? Should it have people who are literate? Then if it is going to have people who are literate, we've got to invest in education. Yeah. If it's going to have people who are healthy, then we've got to invest in hospitals, and not just invest in hospitals in terms of infrastructure and machinery. We have to invest in the human resource. If it's going to have transport and communication, we have to invest in that. And I think what we have failed to do as also as a country is to agree on the things that we agree on. That regardless of what political party you will ever come from, we agree we all need to be healthy. Regardless of what tribe or what clan you're coming from, we need to agree that we need to have educated children. Because if your children are educated, talk, and mine are not, then mine will drag yours down tomorrow. They will be the ones waiting for yours to pluck their side mirrors from their cars and all that. So we need to have a conversation on creating a society, a country that works for everybody, and where everybody actually thrives and everybody is successful and everybody has meaning to life. And so that now we can be able to bring down the big walls Because now in this country, if you have something, you feel compelled to leave behind a very big wall because you're fearing what the neighbor could be thinking about you. I think these are important issues of vision. Yeah, where is the country supposed to be in the next 50 years, and what is my contribution as a citizen towards taking that? Now, in business, the issue of vision is also very, very important. Vision is going to guide, is going to guide your capitalization, is going to guide your product development, is going to guide your human resource development. And, as the Bible says, where there is no vision,
people perish.
People perish. Yeah, and that is what we are saying in Africa particularly, because there is no vision. Even amidst so much resources, people just perish. Yeah.
Where there's no vision, people perish.
Yeah.
Mahali hakuna maono, watu wana collapsing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's any question you want to throw to Eric, Lucia.
Yeah, I'm actually glad we have a business person in the house.
Yeah.
Policies governing the business space. This is something I'm very passionate about. We know that we have a youth bulge in this country. The unemployment rate is so high, very high. And governments are not modeled to be able to create employment. But we have governments so that they can be able to create a conducive environment for the private sector to thrive, which then in turn creates employment opportunities.
Yeah.
How are the policies governing our entrepreneurial space as a country looking like? I have a friend. Unfortunately, I haven't been to Rwanda, but I have a friend who told me they wanted to register a business in Rwanda, and it took them approximately 4 hours to do it. Now, I know in Kenya, if the system was to work perfectly fine, it's going to take you at least 2 weeks. And that kind of already feels like the government just doesn't want people to invest in this. How are these policies in your line of experience and in people you have spoken to within business? How do these policies affect the ability of businesses to first grow and then thrive, to the ability of businesses to be able to get to a place where they are creating employment?
That's a very pertinent question, and I think the truth of the matter is that there's a lot that needs to be done from a policy perspective to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive. The statistics of this country say that most of the jobs are with small businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. Yeah. But most of the policies are not made for the SMEs. That is the most interesting thing. The person crafting the policy is thinking about the corporates, but how many corporates do we have? So government, first and foremost, must create policies that favor the small businesses. I will give you a very simple example. Since the county governments came, do you know that, for example, if you take your branded vehicle, if you have a branded vehicle in the capital, in Nairobi, and you've paid an advertising license in CBD, did you know that sometimes when you go to another county, they expect you to have paid a license for you to go there with a branded vehicle? Yeah. You can imagine how ridiculous it is for a country that has that many number of counties. It is like, if you're going to go with your branded vehicle written Trio Media from Nairobi County to the 47 counties of the country, you are expected to have paid licenses for all of these. I mean, what kind of a policy is that? So there's a way in which, even though we have devolved, and even though we have devolved units, there's a way in which we must come back to think as a country. Are these policies really good in encouraging enterprise in the country? And the answer is that they are not. So I would say that there's a lot of gap in terms of how policies are made. And I think one of the mistakes we make is that we assume that because someone has been appointed to a particular position by government, he understands everything to do with that particular sector. We need to encourage the people who are holding these positions to actually interact with the small businesses, to hear the pain points and to hear the areas of improvement for us to be able to move businesses forward in this country. Because like you say, we are relying on small businesses to create jobs. Yeah. We are relying on small businesses to create the much needed employment for the young people in this country.
Yeah. I saw another tweet a few days ago on taxation of importing a vehicle. and it was ridiculous. So another thing is also taxes. I've never heard of a country that prospered for overtaxing its citizens. Do you feel like, especially when it comes to cars, importing cars, do you feel like the tax is appropriate, or is it just high like every other thing in this country? Is there a place where you feel like you pay it double? Because for me, when I go to the ATM to withdraw money, there's an amount that's deducted.
Yeah.
When I go to the shop to buy milk, there's another amount that's deducted. It feels like I'm paying double tax,
Yeah.
Like so now, apparently, if you start a side hustle on Facebook of selling to socks, you're also expected to pay tax. You're like literally paying tax your entire life. To just live in this country, you're paying. So when it comes to importing cars, I understand that it's very important to regulate that, but we are working towards building an economy. We need to be very mobile. We are building an expressway. If we don't have cars to use these roads that we are building, what's the whole point? So are these taxes appropriate? And if not, what is the one thing that we can do as Kenyans concerning this taxing? Because this is a thorn in so many people's side.
I have a lot of friends in KRA, and one of the things I have done as an entrepreneur is to try and engage with them and understand exactly where they are coming from. Every time they introduce a new tax. And one thing that we have to first and foremost accept as citizens is that government can only run itself by taxing the citizens. But like you rightly say, there's a way in which that taxation can therefore kill businesses, and at the end of the day, everybody becomes a loser. And what I would say is that perhaps the people who are coming up with the policies, it goes back to policy. By the time a particular tax is increased or reduced by someone seated in Kenya Revenue Authority, it is a question of how much consultation has he or she done with the market. But I would say that currently, probably because of also the news that we see all around, this much money is being stolen from government, people just feel, demotivated, even from a tax compliance perspective. And the fact that businesses are struggling to even generate the revenue makes it difficult even for that business person that really was keen on being compliant, for them to actually comply. So I think everybody needs to understand, even the people that are making the policies, that number one, the business community is struggling to even pay much more basic things like rent and salaries, even before they can come to a conversation of taxation with them. So I think it's an issue that needs to be taken to the right table for the policymakers to understand that we need to come together and ask ourselves, since at the end of the day we all want a piece of the pie from the businesses that are running, how then do we make these businesses run better, thrive better, so that everybody at the end of the day takes home something? Because nobody wins when a business closes down. When a business closes down, first and foremost, we lose jobs. And even that tax, that little tax that would have been collected from that business is at the end of the day not collected. Yeah.
Someone said, we are a country that will close down a factory to open a church in the same location so that we can go there to pray for jobs. May God give us wisdom.
I agree with you.
And you see, it's basically the same thing that government does when they overtax you. They overtax you, your business doesn't thrive, so you cannot even pay that tax. So it's just shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah. So let's pray for wisdom.
True.
Tuombe wisdom ya kujenga hospitali nyingi na factories mingi. Danso Muchemi, good morning.
Morning. Morning.
You've started the month on a very long note.
It's quite well. Yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Tumekusubiri sana.
Asante sana. Apologies, I'm late. Yes.
Next time now we'll ensure that you sleep in the studio. So you're the first person in the studio.
I'll do that.
All right. I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
My name is Muchemi Danson. I'm Chief Executive Officer at JAMBOPAY, founder and Chief Executive Officer at JAMBOPAY. I'm a telecoms engineer, entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good to see you. Muchemi has been my friend for a long time. And this is the first time on the taco. Karibu sana, good to see you. Good to see you. So what does JAMBOPAY exactly do?
JAMBOPAY helps businesses and governments and individuals digitize revenue collection. So we basically help you to collect or receive funds in an electronic manner, or pay out digitally through mobile phone or over the internet, through banks and other channels. We have a network of agents out there. And so we basically manage funds and extend digital financial services. Yeah.
All right. I would like to take you just through very quickly through the things that you are supposed to talk about, because we've already hit them most with Sir Eric. Those are Lucia just came in. I just want to pick your mind very quickly on a couple of things. First is starting, the fear of starting. A lot of people fear to start things. How do you beat the fear of starting? And is actually the fear of starting legit?
Yeah, it is legit. Anything you want to embark on, you will certainly have that fear. It's natural to fear change, and starting something new is getting into the territory or domain of change, and so it is perfectly okay. It is normal, and it does happen. And even the best of the best in whatever they do, even when you are racing, when you're in sports, you always fear to start. Now, I think one of those things, what you got to look at is first the end. If you work with the end in mind, all the future, all the dream in mind, then you're better placed to face the fear or tackle the fear of starting. So, for instance, if you're an entrepreneur and your dream is to have an impactful enterprise that generates employment, generates revenues that you are able to work with to change the society or the community around you, or your family or your life, then you go to wear that hat of that future that you want to get into, and then you are able to deal with the challenge or the fear of starting. That's number one. I think secondly is you also got to be bold enough to know that the biggest challenge, the biggest pain, the risks that you're likely to face, bigger than even not starting, is remaining in a position. And so you got to always be on the move, and I think that mentality would help, or does help someone to...
People are struggling to start off. All right. Research has it that most startup businesses collapse within the first 3 months, and those which are resilient and have actually collapsed at 8 months. 8 months max. If you 8 months at least, you can say now you have a business. Research has the first 3 months, most businesses collapse. So that's what I would call probably the incubation period for business. I mean, so how do you sustain your business beyond the incubation month that is the mortality window? How do you sustain it beyond that?
I'll say first, psychologically, you got to be prepared to look at the end, have that end in mind. So if for instance, your end is the impact, like you said earlier on, that you want to generate, let's say for me, mine was to grow across Africa and provide digital payments to lots of governments and individuals and organizations. So once you have set that in mind, psychologically you start at that point. Secondly, you need to start very early towards the process of identifying what it will take to get you there in terms of resources, persons, or human resource. If it is resources that are financial, you also got to understand what it takes, and you also got to understand the challenges. You need to outline the challenges or the handles that you have to face. Once you have this put in perspective, I like to say the best way of doing this is if you outline or place your business in the business model canvas. That's a tool that has been developed out there. That is BMC. This basically gets you a mission, or you define your mission for the business. You define things like who your customers are, where your customers are, your route to your customers, how you get to your customers, reposition, what is it that you provide as a value to persons out there or environment out there. And as business is all about creation of value, creation and retention of value. What's the value that you generate? We also got to define costs and all these things, all the way to the impact. Impact is bottom line. What is it your business is all about, or what is the final goal or end game of your business. A lot of it is not usually it's not about actually cash or money or revenues. A lot of it is on maybe you want to create employment, you want to elevate or tackle a certain community or society challenge, or maybe you want to add certain other value to an organization or groups of organizations or individuals or populations. A lot of this, once you have defined all this, and this is what I'm saying is best captured in a BMC or business model canvas. Once you can BMC your business, it really will help you have all things in perspective, and as such you'll not be ambushed. You'll not have these shocks of, hey, I didn't realize that I needed to have these resources. A lot of times does not mean you got the resources. You do not have to start a business because you have the capital. And JAMBOPAY, we started at a cyber cafe because we could not raise rent for an office. We could only afford $45. That's 4,500 shillings a month to pay for that computer. But we did understand from the onset that the resource that I needed then was internet, a PC, and a desk. And once you have filtered your mindset or your business setup requirement to that basic level, and of course for everyone or for every business is different, then you are able to now understand and appreciate that really here I do not need the office. You know, I may not require to have a reception when you start, of course, but probably need internet connection and a computer. That's how we went about doing it, and so forth. So a lot of it is putting things in perspective and getting psychologically ready. And I also must say part of being psychologically ready is also getting to, for me, was everything I did to date and everything we do. I also always subjected a lot of this to God. Like everything I want to do, I can plan all I want. I can work all hard. I work hard as I can, but I always will want my plans to be established by the Lord, by God. So I also have that as a very strong, not just psychological backing, but also a very true support that if you work as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, or anyone else on any mission, when you have all those factors, then you're better prepared and can almost, if you have a strong faith, certainly see that you will be successful.
Yeah, things you'll be able to hit off. All right, once again, Maridadi Motors in Kiambu Road, opposite Ridgeways Motors. Unaenda pale unapata gari yako haraka upesi. Sparkling Motor Spa. Sierra Mall, just behind Sierra Mall. Sierra Mall pale nyuma utapata Sparkling Motors. Pia kuna majamaa anaitwa D Square Limited, watu wa kuvalisha watu koti kama hii. Eldoret pale Ketia Building, 3rd floor, kwa kina Dan enda pale uweze kupata mungaro. What makes business collapse then within the mortality window? What is it that makes business collapse?
I must say, sometimes it's the entrepreneur themselves. You as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's the environment around you. You could be starting an enterprise, but the environment is hostile. And an example of a hostile environment sometimes is maybe we had a pandemic or we had policies that were not conducive, or that were not just not conducive, that were quite detrimental. Sometimes it could be wrong timing. It could be under-resourcing or lack of resources. Could be a lot of things could cause a bit. And then sometimes I think a lot of times is getting an entrepreneur quite doing it not sure. When you're not sure you are onto something, then but then an enterprise stops, or a business collapses because someone gave up. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who have faced enormous challenges and still kept the spirit and the fire burning. They kept the business going, and they weathered the storm. And so I must say it is a combination of three things. One is the entrepreneur, the state of that entrepreneur or the business leadership. Secondly is the business environment, and could be policies and all that. And thirdly could be sometimes there is just we could call it maybe bad luck. As much as luck is not something that we bank on out here.
Even insurance, they say natural causes. We don't insure bad luck. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a match that makes business collapse within the mortality window. Lucia, do you have any questions for Dance and Muchemi?
I live in these kanjo houses. Hapo nyuma kidogo, you were providing these services for kanjo. It used to be very convenient, I tell you, Gerald. I used to pay my rent kama nimekaa hapo kwa sitting room na miguu juu ya meza. Nowadays, do you know you have to go to City Hall to queue?
Kwani ina meza ijaleta system?
Na kwanza ukienda saa hii huko utapanga line for 2 hours because ni end month. Everyone is running. I'm telling you, it is hectic. I just want to know what happened.
Well,
out of curiosity.
That's a good question. As business people, any enterprise, we engage with our clients on within certain terms, and these terms are best described as contracts. And contracts, a lot of things that exist in contracts are tenure. Tenure means I will provide you this service for this number of years or months. So for us at City Hall was 5 years, and we did provide those services for those 5 years, and with good success. I mean, impactful, as you can clearly tell now that we had impact. And when we got to the end, we got to the end of that contract. And contracts are a relationship between a buyer and a seller. You do not always have to buy from the same seller that you bought last time. And as a matter of fact, sometimes you do not have to buy at all. So that's the best. That's best describes.
So they said not to buy at all. That's why now these guys are.
So they are not. You are not in a client. They are not our clients anymore. We are not in that relationship. However, we still provide these services to a lot of other government and non-government entities. We provide these services to 5,226 organizations out there, and some of them are government entities. Others are private entities, and so. It is not all lost. Maybe there is a future that will be better in regards to those services.
Maybe she needs to move houses now to where you're providing services.
Maybe. But then I think you also need to speak to we now have a deputy governor who's supposed to be acting governor. Maybe you need to speak. You need to speak to her. And I think I need to speak to Edgar Obarendo anipe chai vizuri bana. Utanipatia chai vizuri.
You think the steed is not being served?
It is not. It is not.
Okay.
But then I'd also there's a certain phobia, especially where government is involved, from moving from analog systems to fully digitizing their systems. And even when they do, then they put these old people wenye wanataka kufinya keyboard ni kama kuku inakula mahindi, you know, like our ICT cabinet secretary is very young. Where does the disconnect happen?
I say that that this government's policy is quite digitizing. It's a good policy. The government really wants and supports digitization. I am aware of there are a lot of initiatives to digitize, and so it's a good government is moving in a good direction. Honestly speaking, there is a lot of digitization of services. We got lots of ministries and departments have now digitized or are digitizing as a policy. And I must say, of course, any change takes time, and any change has resistance. Resistance is what you feel today could be at an individual level, but not at a government policy level. I must that there is it's individuals within probably certain government entities, others probably outside government entities, but the policies and guidelines and initiatives all points to a government that's keen on extending services through digital platforms or digitizing and automating functions and service delivery. So it's a phase. Any change that happens, a lot of times change of large magnitude will face such challenges. Yes.
All right. But let's get back to you, Sir Eric Mwangi. See your MARIDADY mottos. This issue of criticism. You know, you start off and then you find people, 100 people who know better what you want to do than you, and they find every corner and every reason to criticize you. Sometimes very harshly, sometimes very negatively. Sometimes most of the business actually collapse even at the start of them because of criticism.
Yeah.
Even from close people that maybe you share an idea that, hey, Lucia. You know, and then again, you know, they start making you backtrack on what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
How do you and then again the media space has given a lot of people a space to you know, to be anything. You find people who are so frustrated with their own issues, they always find a way every morning to come and rub it off you. You know, how do you handle criticism, especially for businesses, negative criticism?
That is actually a very important part of the entrepreneur's journey, the mental warfare that he's going to go through. And I'm glad that the CEO JAMBOPAY has alluded to the fact that sometimes a business will collapse because the entrepreneur has collapsed from within. Because if an entrepreneur gives up on his business, then there is nobody else to fight for that business, really. But criticism is a reality of life in anything that you're going to do. Even if you're just planting a tree, there is someone who has an idea that you should have planted a different tree, or you should have planted it at a different point. So I think entrepreneurs have to develop that mental ability to face off criticism and know that it's going to be there. Now, the coming of the online life, digital life, because we all nowadays have a digital life. Every brand has a digital life, and it is important for brands to have a digital life because there's a lot of market in the online space. You have to appreciate the good and the bad. We talk. See, there's a market you're going to access because the internet exists.
Sure.
Yeah, and that market is bigger than the geographical market that your brand could traditionally access. But you also have to appreciate that that comes with the bad. Yeah, that the online platforms, spheres also give people an opportunity to criticize your business. Sometimes this criticism is constructive, sometimes it is not constructive. And I think for you as the entrepreneur, and what I do, for example, at MARIDADY Motors, we look at every criticism that we receive and classify it. If, for example, you're getting criticized by a client who has bought from you before, or a client who has paid money to you, then you need to take that criticism very seriously. Yes. I mean, that is like your spouse
it's
talking
coming
to
from
you.
an experience, yes.
Yes, it's someone that has a relationship with you. It's someone that has demonstrated willingness to do business with you. So if they have feedback for you, you've got to be willing to listen to that feedback. But Bitok, there is also criticism that is just empty. He's just a guy who is frustrated in his own life and is projecting his frustration to any Tom, Dick, and Harry that he can find. And if you're the Tom or the Dick or the Harry that he's finding online that morning, he's going to pour his frustrations on you. So that is criticism that you do not need to take very seriously. I would give you one story of a guy who kept my online team busy with criticism online on one Friday evening. And the following morning, the team updated me and I told them, let me get in touch with this guy. And when we got in touch with the guy, by Saturday afternoon, he was in our offices apologizing, saying, please just understand, I was just having a bad day yesterday. I was just having a bad day. So what I would tell entrepreneurs is, don't take some of this criticism to heart. Sometimes you need to listen to the criticism with your mind. Yeah, you can listen to it with your mind, but you don't take it to heart. Learn from it when it is constructive. Understand also that some of it could be sponsored by competitors, by haters, by people who don't want to see you making progress. But if you're going to listen only to the negative criticism and decide, man, I don't want to be criticized, so I'm not going to try anything, then you will never make progress in life, because you will be criticized for anything that you want to try in this life. Even if you just want to compose a song for yourself to sing in the bathroom, it is your song to sing, but there is someone who is going to criticize that.
They say even if you lie flat and let them work on you, they'll say you're not flat enough.
True.
You're not flat enough.
Yeah.
So even before you started classifying, because not everybody can get to that level of looking at criticism, some of us struggle with it and it actually affects us and affects our businesses. Before you got there, how did it affect you? Before you got to a point where you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with all this criticism.
Quite honestly, there's a time it was really taking a psychological toll on me as an entrepreneur. See, when you're doing a business, there are things that will go right. There are things that will go wrong. And sometimes we'll have a genuine and legitimate customer actually complaining about your business online. And what that means is that your brand is out there being criticized, and sometimes as the entrepreneur behind the brand, sometimes, for example, if you criticize Trio Media, you are in one way or the other criticizing Bitok and his team. If you criticize JAMBOPAY, you are criticizing Danson and his team. And sometimes this can go to heart, and it can be very, very, very discouraging. But I want to tell entrepreneurs that it gets better. As people get to learn the culture of the business, people know that even if there is a problem, the team is going to sort out that problem. Then people will understand that even if there is a problem, they do not necessarily have to sort it out with you publicly, because they know that you are a responsible brand and that you're going to take care of it. But one of the ways in which it has changed me, Bitok, is that it has made me a more responsible customer. When I am the one buying, for example, and I am buying from a small business or a big business, even when there is a problem, I think I try to be a bit more understanding, to try and make sure that even if there is a problem, really, I do not have to expose that company, embarrass them, humiliate them and all that. I buy reasonably as a human being, understanding that these things happen in business, that sometimes the teller serving you at the bank could be on the verge of collapse from within. You could be talking to someone who is planning to kill himself in the evening because they are hopeless and they are empty from within. So I think it has also trained me to be a human customer. That even when I am dealing with that waiter in the hotel, that guard at the shopping mall, you understand that you're dealing with human beings. Sometimes they could be going through challenges, and sometimes they just need some encouragement from you, and they are going to offer a better service tomorrow.
So you'd say where you are now, you can deal very well with criticism.
I am happy to be criticized. I am happy to hold a debate with the market online on any product or any issue that we tackle as MARIDADY Motors. I am happy to engage. Why? Because this is a good way of getting better. And there's a book called Hug Your Haters. And the book says, it's actually called Hug Your Haters. I cannot remember the writer. But the writer says that criticism is actually a gift to your business. Someone is giving you free consultancy. It's a customer telling you, if you did it this way, I would be a happier customer. I would actually pay you more for it. So I think it's just also how we look at it. Let us look at it from a professional perspective. It is not people trying to attack you personally most of the times. Sometimes it is the market giving you feedback that this is how you can do it better.
All right. Muchemi, criticism. Have you ever had to struggle with criticism at JAMBOPAY?
Yes, I have. All the time. We are a digital organization, and so we are exposed to a lot of criticism. Yes, from more, not just online, sometimes offline, and others from government entities. So from all quarters, we have faced criticism, and they are welcome.
Okay. How have you been able to deal with this criticism, especially, online malice and all that, things that go around? How have you been able to deal with this? Does it keep you awake at night?
Well, criticism is actually a gift. I must confirm that is actually, indeed, is a gift you get from your customers. Sometimes they are not your customers, but people out there. I've personally dealt with criticism by first accepting that you should be criticized, and it's not a bad thing at all. After all, once you're in business or doing anything that is touching on another entity that is not yourself, you should expect that criticism should. So once is accepting that there should be criticism. And in fact, I also realized quite early that if criticism is not coming, I'm probably doing something wrong somewhere. Something is going wrong somewhere, or someone is not being honest with you if you're not getting criticism. And secondly, getting to understand there is the business and there is yourself. Actually, businesses are legal entities. They are entities, just like you are another entity. And the moment you're able to, you should essentially dissociate yourself. Understand, yes, you're there, you're the business leader. And you have the business as another entity. And as such, not everything that is targeted at your enterprise should basically get into your heart. Okay? And hurting your feelings. And that's something else. So then of course, when you have other things that you do for, like pastime. For instance, for me, I love traveling. Sometimes you should have your time where you are just yourself. You switch off from all the demands, all the we call it the madness of the daily running of the business, or the environment that is the business environment, and that just we're getting the time to reflect on how life is and other things that are outside that. So I think those are some of ways of how I have dealt with the criticism. Yes.
All right. So if I may add something, one of the things you will find is that actually most of the people that have ever criticized you online, if you go ahead and actually genuinely address their concerns, address their issues, they end up becoming your best customers and your best fans. I know there is the heat of the moment. At the point when you're being criticized, it can really weigh you down. Also, depending on the season of entrepreneurs have seasons. There is a time when the burdens are too heavy on you, and just a simple criticism could break your back. But if you look at the people that have constructively criticized you, if you address their issues, they end up being your best customers. But then also, you must develop some tough skin to identify a type of criticism that we call at MARIDADY. We say it's coming from digital frogs. Mm-hmm. you know that concept of cows going to drink from the river.
Yeah.
And you have frogs making noise all over, and you're like, why are frogs making noise? First of all, they cannot finish all this water. Mm-hmm. Even if you allowed them to drink the water from the river, they cannot exhaust that water, but they are still just making noise. But what do cows do?
They keep drinking.
They continue drinking. So even if you don't learn anything else in life from a cow, you can pick that one lesson, that it's a market, it's a river, it's digital. You continue drinking even as the digital frogs make noise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Now I know one thing more, digital frogs. From now on, I know to deal with digital frogs. I'll keep drinking. All right, Lucia, any comments or questions?
I like what the gentlemen have said, and just to add to it, you should never accept criticism from someone you'll never go to for advice. If someone is criticizing you online, and from the content of what they're saying, this looks like a person you'd never go to for advice, then trust me that whatever they've said is not going to be constructive to you. And another thing, people who are doing better than you, people who are chasing their dreams, will never ever negatively criticize anyone doing something with their life, because they understand how hard that hustle is, and because that hustle is hard, they don't even have time for negativity. True. At all. Yeah. You will never find former CJ, say Willy Mutunga, or even David Maraga criticizing maybe LSK President Nelson Havi. And even if they do it, they're not going to do it with bile. They simply don't have that time. But you will find someone in a bed sitter somewhere in a kaslam mahali ndo anajua kuongea sana. Yet they're just seated there doing nothing. Someone who has gone out there to do something is better off than someone who's just seated doing nothing. Try and fail. It's a lesson. But just don't sit there and feel like you're entitled to giving people an opinion just because you have one.
All right. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you should actually give it out.
Yeah.
All right. Eric, a lot of businesses collapse at their best level. Yeah. Businesses grow, you see them thriving. Then it gets to a point where it falls with a thud, quite literally.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the end of it. There's that feeling of entrepreneurs where they feel they have arrived. Ilo story ya nimefika.
Yeah.
I've arrived here. They stop listening to the people they started off with. They stop listening to advice. They stop listening to the employees. They got a point of feel, I'm the boss, I'm the CEO. I know that this is my business. I own the vision, and I know these things. And things keep changing. The mindset that you started the business with is not necessarily the same mindset 10 years later.
Yeah. Right?
A lot of businesses get to a point of the suffrage of destination syndrome. We feel we have arrived, and you stop doing things differently. Then it falls. A successful business, building a successful business at times is easy. Sustaining it is something else. Being at the top, what does it take to sustain a business that has gotten to a point where maybe the owners are mefika, we are here, we've taken over the market, this is us, there's nobody who can do anything about it?
If there's anything that can set up an individual or a business for failure, is success. Because when you're on top, if you fall down a good one, because you'll be coming from very high up there. And I think this speaks to the humanity of the entrepreneur, because you must always remember that you're human, and the qualities of being human are that you don't know it all. And sometimes you know it all for a season, but for a different season you're completely ignorant. There are a lot of businesses that have been unable to transition the digital revolution. Why? Because the founders of those businesses did not accept. You see, one of the things that happened through the digital revolution is that wisdom got inverted. Wisdom is traditionally held by the older generation, but when it came to digital wisdom, it is actually held by the younger generation. So any person that was an entrepreneur and had a traditional business model, if they were going to digitize that business, it called upon them to listen to a younger person. It was the younger person who was going to suggest to them on how they can be able to digitize that business. So I would say that entrepreneurs must always be willing to learn, both from the older generation and from the younger generation, and they must first and foremost be willing to listen to the market. Many times we say that as entrepreneurs, we are leading the market, or we are leading our business, or we are leading our industries. But what I have found out is that sometimes you actually need to follow the market. It is the market telling you this is where you need to go. It is the customer telling you this is the service that we need. So I would say that the entrepreneur must always remember why he has 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice you speak, and then you will be able to learn from the market, you'll be able to learn from the team, and you'll be able to know that this is what I need to do for me to be able to redefine my business. Because businesses must always keep on redefining themselves. They must always keep on looking at where the market is going and following the market, where the problems are going, and providing solutions for those particular problems. If you look at, I am in the auto industry myself. If you look at Toyota, for example, did you know that Toyota was originally a textile company?
I didn't know. Really?
Yeah. Actually, the automobile section that became Toyota was started as a department within a textile company. And they were able to bring up a company through the industrial revolution that we know today as Toyota. Now, look at Safaricom, for example. It was a communication company, but today we know it more for M-Pesa, right? We know it more for internet. So I think it's an issue of brands, just looking at the trends, where the problems are, where the opportunities are moving, and redefining themselves along that line and solving the problems that are there in the market.
All right. Muchemi, destination syndrome. A lot of companies tip over the top.
Correct.
When they have actualized themselves is when they collapse. What usually causes this, and how do you avoid that trap?
I also feel is that just vision being too personalized and too short. And the best way of dealing with this is have a long-term goal and vision for the business, the strategic plans. And secondly is anchor your mission. Missions are usually, and visions are usually broader than just a business objective of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. And the moment I think we got to get other people to buy into the mission of the business and the vision, and the dreams and the goal, and working with brilliant people to get to carry the vision. And then we also got to keep studying your market, keep studying your environment, but most importantly, listen, like my colleague here mentioned, listen to your customer. If you're driven by the customer needs, you will keep evolving. You will keep being relevant as long as you respond and provide services that are relevant or what the customer is asking for. You find you always doing something that is sticky, something that the customer wants. I think that in itself will keep you evolving and being relevant. Being as a farmer, you got to understand that farming could end up being a whole manufacturing plant. you know, could eventually be a platform where you propagate, probably you train others on best farming practice. In other words, a farmer could essentially be sitting on a classroom or a university for agriculture, because you could or convert that eventually into an institution where people come and learn. So it is listening and being open to change. You've to essentially be without real form. Like you have to be agile, completely agile in business.
Okay, I'll throw the same thing back to Eric. The thing is, you've talked about a vision. I think the thing that you have been so repetitive is that the vision. You need to have a vision. But it gets to a point where your business outgrows your vision. At times you start a business, then it even outgrows you. It outgrows your vision because it's driven by many other people, many other hands with different expertise and all that. At times you could even have employees who are smarter than you.
Correct.
And you find that a business outgrows your thinking. It outgrows you as a person. It outgrows your vision. How then do you still manage to contain, to be agile, as you said? How do you manage the ropes? Because maybe now the puppets have become titans and they're almost pulling you off. Well, how do you manage those ropes?
If you first, is good to work, it's a good thing to have brilliant people who are brighter than yourself. You should always strive to have that. And then getting the business to have the ability to self-rejuvenate, to self-reset, where you have other actors or also players, including your customers, driving your strategy, then you're able to better respond to and support this change and move away from rigidity or getting fixated on what you want.
Okay. All right, there's something to you, Eric Mwangi. It happens quite often. You find I've seen a lot of businesses that have collapsed because maybe the owners and the exclusivity or the monopoly of the vision, and it's got to a point where the business has outgrown their vision. I mean, it's no longer tenable. Their vision is no longer tenable. How do you handle something where your business has outgrown you? You cannot be the business leader anymore. You need someone else to take over the mantle, take over the ropes, and you maybe navigate the business to another level. How do you deal with that?
I think we've seen that a lot in African businesses, where businesses are completely unable to transition the exit of the entrepreneur. If they die or they grow old or they get incapacitated, they go down with the business. Something that you rightfully said another time, that Asian businesses seem to do better than African businesses in that regard. But I think it's an issue of, first and foremost, the entrepreneur developing the required emotional security. Yeah. Sometimes we need to accept that we will not always be strong, that we will not always be smart, and that sometimes our ideas will be completely outdated, and we will have to be succeeded by the coming generations. An intern who is coming from the university can bring an idea that completely, like Danson says, rejuvenates the company. Yeah. Why?
That throws you off.
That throws you off. Because sometimes this thing we call experience is experience in the traditional ways of doing things. But the future has no royalty to tradition. The future is innovative, And sometimes the mind that will have the agility to help you circumvent the future will be the mind that doesn't know the past. It is going to be that mind that is fresh from campus. It's going to be that young mind that will be asking questions from a perspective of naivety and ignorance. Why? Because the guy who is experienced in the business is first and foremost afraid of asking questions, because he doesn't want to look ignorant. He doesn't want to look like he doesn't know. But this person could be asking the pertinent question that drives the company forward. So I think entrepreneurs must develop the emotional security of accepting that, look, I may have started this, but I may not be the one to take it to the next level. Just like an architect draws a house and forwards it to the contractor to build. Sometimes that is what it is, the calling of the entrepreneur. You came up with the idea, but there are other people who will come to make it better, who will come to actually complete the vision and make it move forward.
All right. Lucia, any comments or question?
No, I think they have exhausted everything.
They have exhausted you.
I'm soaking in wisdom. They say if you hang out with 4 millionaires,
you could be the next.
You're likely
and
to be the fifth one.
You're really getting infected. You're in the middle, so you're getting from both ends. All right, let's talk. Unaona karibu unakaribia na usinisahau ukiomoka. Niliweka hapa katikati. I sandwiched you for a reason. All right, let's talk about the issues of depression. A lot of business people are depressed. watu wengi, most guys are dying early. Most people who are doing business, entrepreneurs are committing suicide. They're running into depression. I've seen guys who are being rescued in the streets. People who are doing well before, they're doing business and all that. I mean, first of all, and most of these guys are men. Surprisingly, it's very difficult to hear about a woman committing suicide. It's almost impossible. It's difficult to find them. If I could give you the same situations, the three of you, Lucia could probably survive. And nyinyi wawili mutakwenda. Businesses.
Lucia will pray for us to survive also.
Yes.
Businesses,
amen.
most businessmen are committing suicide or they're in depression. And also the enterprises are collapsing. What do you think is going on? I'll start with you, Danson.
Well, I think men are honestly, I think we are the weaker gender. We are weaker than men, than women.
Now we are now suddenly the weaker gender.
We are a weaker gender, really, in terms of handling pressure. But I must say, entrepreneurs are more specifically quite vulnerable, because an entrepreneur is not just another machine somewhere. These are men who are heads of households. And heads of households are people who basically even women look up to. And so a lot of times you find an entrepreneur is out there is trying to balance off and keep things going in an organization, in an enterprise. They also have to make sure things are working at home. I mean, they have to provide. And they have also to probably provide for a lot of other people out there. Not always but for entrepreneurs, I've come to realize a lot of times is they are bold guys. They are brave people. And every brave person has just that one arrow, one strength somewhere, or a couple of them. They know their strength is 1, 2, 3. A lot of it you find is in families, or in maybe friends or circles of friends. There is where you draw your support from, your main strength. And a lot of times, if that is shaken or threatened, and you face all this pressure that you expect, that a lot of times will come your way. You probably find yourself as an entrepreneur quite vulnerable and in shaky environments. And so I think it's important that entrepreneurs get support from the people that are their friends or their families. And when there's that appreciation that this is someone and is not necessarily a magician, is still human and ought to be supported. So I think a lot of it is happening because we got people who have they just probably some people out there do not really get to understand that they are human. But as entrepreneurs, we got to be more in touch with, you got to build your social support structure. May it be your church or your family, better friends. There are friends who are better friends that you can rely on, and keep talking. Because as long as you can communicate, as long as you can say it out, as long as you have an avenue of venting it out, you are a better place to survive and go through or avoid depression. I think that's actually a big challenge that is facing a lot of entrepreneurs, because you under pressure from a lot of everything. Then COVID did not help. KRA is there. You have COVID came. You got your suppliers. You have a lot of things keep shifting.
All right, Eric, what are your thoughts on this?
Just to re-echo what my brother has said, think about the number of people that have a plan by the end of the day to get something from the entrepreneur. He starts with the taxman, talks about the suppliers, talk about the employees. Employees love end month. But entrepreneurs don't necessarily love it.
You don't love it.
They get slapped by the payroll. It's a bill. To them, it's a bill. Yeah. Then at the end of the day, the entrepreneur gets blamed by anybody who did not get their expectations met by the business. We go into business thinking that the bucks will always stop at your table. Sometimes it is the burdens that will stop at your table. Everybody is going to be looking up to you. I joke with my entrepreneur friends, and I say that every morning you wake up as an entrepreneur, there's someone mad at you. Yes. It can be the landlord, it can be a customer, it can be an employee who feels they should be promoted. Someone somewhere is mad at you and is squarely blaming you for their problems as an entrepreneur. Now think about that emotional weight, that emotional baggage of knowing that you have all these people holding you to account. At the end of the day, like Danson says, you are a man, you have got your own family to take care of at home, you have a wife and you have kids. And this is why you will find that sometimes entrepreneurs can break from within, and that is going to be expressed by the depression that we see, sometimes by the addictions that we see people getting into as they try to relieve of the pressure. How can they survive? Of course, support system is very, very important. Yeah. And talking to other people that have been through it before you, talking to other entrepreneurs, so that you understand that the challenges that you're going through are not squarely just you. Yeah. But one of the most important defense mechanisms that I think entrepreneurs have to develop is to stop blaming themselves for everything that goes wrong. It is good to take count and check and see, fine, something may not be working out here, but is it really my fault? Is it really my fault that COVID came, for example? Is it really my fault that work has gone down and you probably have to downsize? Because sometimes these decisions are very, very emotional, and they can take a toll on the emotional or the psyche of the entrepreneur, and it can lead to depression. I think entrepreneurs have to, at the end of the day, accept they are not God. We are not gods. Yeah, we are entrepreneurs. We are trying to combine the factors of production to solve an economic problem in the market. Sometimes the ship is going to be shaken by the waves. Sometimes it may even sink, but it doesn't mean that the entrepreneur set out from the shores to go and sink the ship. I think we have, because we all go into business thinking that we are going to succeed, we are going to make money, but we do not take time to ask ourselves, what if we don't? Yeah. What if you don't? What are you going to come out as a person? Because like I say, living life, at the end of the day, it can make you bitter or it can make you better. Yeah. And I think the choice is going to be for the entrepreneur. Sometimes there are ventures, there are ideas they are going to try in the market, they are not going to work. That can make you a better person, or it can make you a bitter person for tomorrow. The choice is actually
a daily gamble.
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever run into depression?
No. I wouldn't. Of course, I don't know what you mean by clinical depression or just feeling.
There's a difference between depression and stress.
There's a big confusion between stress and depression. It is not possible for you to run a business without ever feeling. One morning, you don't have the energy that you normally have. Yeah. One morning you feel completely stressed. One evening you feel today the burdens were just too much in the business. If it is that kind of mild feeling, I would tell you that is the order of life for an entrepreneur.
Order of the day. Muchemi, have you run into depression?
Well, I also must say, clinically, not been through one that is clinically, but I've gone through challenges that got me quite low on energy. And I'll give this example. For instance, 2020, I had these big legal issues. Fights with the governments, not one governments. And I got, we had COVID was showing up. We had issues with markets that were not performing. We had certain markets in West Africa that we were not able to perform. So really, I had a terrible accident in February last year, and that was one moment that I was here physically. You're confined in hospital. You have to pay bills that come with being an entrepreneur. You got to make sure that the shifting environments, shifting challenges that are unexpected. When we set up business, we never anticipated that probably a COVID. I never ever set up business so that I can get into legal challenges with the government. I, for instance, worked always honestly so that I'm you do not expect that one day someone would get you into an environment like that. And so sometimes we have faced those ones, and entrepreneurs say that it's true. A lot of entrepreneurs are very close to God. The most religious people around are entrepreneurs. They pray every morning.
Yeah,
I have prayed every morning for the last 10 years.
Wow.
Since I started the business. But the most intense prayers have happened when there were huge challenges my way, and those moments. So a lot of it is because you understand that yes, you have employees who are expecting and looking up to you for salaries. A lot of times, not just salaries, they want an increment. We got
and it's always justified.
Yes, and with justifications. We got suppliers who have employees, and they have their families, and they are looking up to you too. We got the tax.
And they also under the same pressure you're under.
Yes, they are, and we have the taxman. I think taxman also is under pressure to pay some other, for salaries and
Chinese loans
and all these things. And so it's not an easy. I have personally gone through a lot of this. Sometimes I imagine JAMBOPAY is imagine all that we have systems that are running critical functions. For instance, we do revenue collection for entities. Some of these are hospitals, Some of them are critical. We have SLAs that say that if you have an issue with your system, for that downtime you pay us. I once received a 10 million invoice for a few minutes of a downtime. So you go to balance making sure that from the system to the organization to the environment works, and also within yourself. So a lot of this does happen, and you got to make it through. So I think entrepreneurs are champions.
The most dangerous people. Have you gotten to a point where you wanted to give up? Have you ever thought about giving up?
Never. I've never ever thought of giving up. I've never ever. The only thing I've done is thought of maybe this plan may not work, and I've got to think about plan B. Not plan B of another idea or something else to do altogether, but on
maneuver.
Yeah, like I've got to
work a diversion.
Go around and get, if plan A is not working, to the same goal, look at plan B, or towards the same goal, plan C and D. But I've never thought of giving up.
Right.
Well, never.
Have you ever?
Have I ever on an idea? Yes, but on the course of entrepreneurship, I would say no, because I've come to the understanding that even when you give up, tomorrow you will have to ask yourself, how do you start again?
You have to wake up again in the morning.
Yes.
The world does not end.
Yeah, the world does not end. So I think you have to push yourself, and you have to keep on telling yourself, giving up is not an option. For as long as you're breathing, that's your call. You have to keep making things work out.
And sometimes it's actually you do not have an option of giving up. Once you're in a ring, a boxing ring, sometimes you just go to fight for survival.
Yeah. But if you sit down, this guy will finish you.
You cannot escape.
You have to keep punching in there.
You get into entrepreneurship proper. How do you give up? How do you walk away from obligations?
Yeah.
How do you walk away from all these families that are relying on you for their livelihoods?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not it's a one-way highway. You do not get an opportunity to run away from that. You can only probably get to do that when you are done with this life.
You either swim or drown. You have
Two things.
If
you stop swimming, you drown.
Yeah, you stop swimming, you
so
drown.
You just keep flapping.
So you have to keep on
until you get up.
Gerald, these gentlemen are very lucky. I have been clinically depressed. Trust me, it's. I think this is a whole entire conversation that we need to have on the show sometime. It's not a place you want to be. It's not something you'd even wish for your worst enemy to go through, because it's literally it's a fight between what your heart feels and what your head knows. It's a constant battle. I have given up severally. But then, the questions you ask yourself is like, okay, so if I don't do this, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So I have given up, and then I get back on track, and it's like, you know what? I probably just needed a break and I overreacted. And then you pick yourself up and you go. And I think we need to normalize having this conversation so that people out there know. Because for me, I didn't know what depression was. So it was like, oh my God, there's something horribly wrong with me. Pengine na kwa mwenda wazimu, now that I understand what depression is, it's like, it's normal. Even when you're in that moment of anxiety, it's just... you keep telling yourself it's going to pass. It's going to pass. Like, I don't have to make any definite decision right now because it will pass. And these are conversations that we need to have, because stress is going to be there whether you're in entrepreneurship or wherever you are. It's part and parcel of life. Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning to you, sir.
Una wageni wazuri sana baba.
Asante sana. Wewe ni chairman. This
is chairman himself. We won't be talking about kettle this time. Tutachoma.
Wewe ushaipata na depression ya biashara?
Na unita iwezi kuongelea biashara. Okay, one of the biggest challenges I would actually want to ask about is getting a team to work with when actually you're starting up as an entrepreneur, or you're getting into a new venture within a business you've been doing. And one of the biggest things I've experienced as an entrepreneur, I know might be also Gerald in what you're doing, you might have gone through this, getting a team that will work with you and the whole process. How do they go about it? Because it's been chaotic for so many of us.
Getting partners to work with.
Not even partners. Even within employing. As much as you're going to employ someone, as much as they're going to have the papers, at the end of it all, you'll have to get one person within 2 weeks. You notice actually it was not what I was looking for. You actually have to tell them go again. And how do they go about it? At times somebody fails you big time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'll throw it back to you guys very quickly. Then I would want to really get back to that issue of depression. Pick it up. If we then continue. I'll begin with you, Muchemi. Then I'll throw it back to Eric to answer the question of the caller. How do you build a team?
Team is built, so you essentially go to start somewhere and give the environment that supports that business. I mean, a team is not something that you go and acquire. The best teams are built. You got to start with getting the right environment. Give them, for instance, when you join our organization, I always say, first thing, this is the place you got to come and fail if you must. If you want to, just try, but do not be complacent. So the environment ought to be, it's okay to fail. It's okay to try. You also got to communicate the vision and mission clearly. The objectives of the business got to be quite clear. In getting a good team, I would go for attitude. I rank as I do as we go about doing our interviews and in the selection process. The most important thing is attitude. The attitude, then you get to the skills. Skills you can always acquire, you can always train. Attitude is hard to change. It can be changed, but it's a bit hard. So I think it's you got to start with yourself first. Look at you got to change your mindset to a mindset that is more interested in building a team. You got to be a captain. A captain got to get down to first understand what it is you do, and also appreciate these individuals, and be ready to grow people from novice. What you'd say, someone may not have proper understanding but has good attitude and is ready to grow. So it's built. Teams are built, and building a team takes time, but you should have a plan for it.
Right. Yes. Eric, how do you build a team? Because at times you get a team that does not believe in your dream. Yeah. I think what's really important at times is to get people who believe in your dream to understand that they're willing to run into sacrifices to build with you. Yeah. Because I think the biggest thing that you've talked, because I've done business as well. I'm a businessman. Technically I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. And you find that the first time when I was starting off, it's a struggle to start off. First of all, you're starting with an idea that you only understand. You know where you want to take it. It's like a new path. you chatting away through the forest, and you're the only person who knows where you want to go and how you want to take it. And at times you get people who don't understand it. They're in for the salary. Someone is coming in, they have their own problems. You know, I have problems at home, I have children, I need to take to school, I have this and that. They don't care about your vision. It's none of their business. The only business they have to do is to wake up in the morning, to be there at 7:30 and go home at 5 p.m. sharp. If you figure 16:45, they've already started packing their bags, you know, and getting off the rubber shoes, now wearing their heels and go home, or maybe to go for a drink. Your vision has nothing to do with them. They don't lose sleep over it. They don't keep thinking about it at night. For you it's a 24-hour business. Even at night you cannot sleep. You wake up in the middle of the night to think about the same thing. It is a struggle. You think about team. You find that the biggest struggle that you have to deal with is within you, within the team that you are having. What do you consider when you're building up a team, and how pretty sure you want to work with these people?
I feel the weight of the gentleman asking that question on phone, and I know how challenging it is. Let me first say a big thank you to my team at MARIDADY, for the job they do down there. I would say that that question reminds me of Jesus building his team of 12 disciples. What did he tell them? One after the other. Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. These were fishermen. Now he wanted to make them fishers of men. I think we have to understand that the only reason why people join your vision is to get an opportunity to be better people. They are looking for an opportunity to develop their careers. They are looking for the opportunity to provide for their livelihoods. So one of the biggest responsibilities that you have as an entrepreneur is to ensure that those constants are held constant. Sometimes it is absolutely difficult, and I know Danson can accept. But even during those moments when it is difficult to meet those obligations, it would be good for you to sit down with your team as a family and tell them, look, this is where we are as an organization. And I think this is the one thing that COVID brought as an opportunity. A lot of companies, even the big one, had to have very uncomfortable conversations with their teams and tell them, look, this is what you are earning, but it looks like this is what you will have to earn until we know better. So I think building a team is a continuous struggle. It is something that you have to work on every day. But then also as entrepreneurs, we have to learn to let go. Sometimes you have to accept that someone is going to be in your team for a season. I see people who are going to fit in your team for as long as, for example, they do not have a family. But when they have a family, maybe the requirements of the job are such that they cannot continue to be effective. So I think as entrepreneurs, we have to develop the emotional security of waking up one morning and finding a resignation letter from one of your best team members telling you, you know what, I think my time to go has come. And that always ushers away for somebody else sometimes to join you. But we have to do our best to make sure that we have lifted the lead high enough for people to be able to grow within our teams.
I hope MC Kalia, you've been answered. Lucia, I'll get back to you. You know, people think depression was one of those things like, we all wake up, we all go through issues. And, they never get to really understand what it feels like to be there. And I think I've never probably, the problem is that you can never tell when you're depressed or when you are not. I think that's the biggest challenge. Because I think depressed people are the happiest people. They smile, they laugh about things and all that. You can never tell. So I cannot say I've been or have not been depressed. I know I've been stressed at some point, I've been through things. But you can never tell when you're depressed. And people really underrate depression. Until it's too late. I've had people who really laugh about someone. I've seen a couple of people posted on Facebook. I saw the other day there's a police officer who was saying I'm going to slash him, and they went ahead and killed that man. People have threatened to commit suicide because of depression, and they go ahead and do it. And you find people laughing until it's too late. Now that's when they say, oh, Paul, RIP, rest in peace and all that. You haven't been there. I mean, what is it that you want to tell some of us who might think, it's one of those things?
It's kwanza the little jokes that we make about it. It's because depression is serious. It's a mental state of mind. I don't want to say it's a mental condition. Not wataanza kufikiria depressed people are mad. It's you're not mad per se, and the stigma that comes with it. People will tell you hizo ni shida za wazungu. Actually, this is something I heard so many times from people who are so close to me, and it was like, oh my God, I'm so bougie, but si shida za wazungu, ni shida za kila mtu. In your daily life, we handle things differently. Personally, I'm an empath. You know, if I was to hear a very sad story, I really take it to heart and I make it my own. I actually really carry that burden. So you just, it's emotionally draining. And the fact that at times you feel so insufficient. And let me just give an example, a personal example. When something happens, you know, maybe I hear a sad story like 2 days ago. I had a sad story 2 days ago. And then today I find myself in a situation which makes me feel as helpless as the person telling the sad story was. It kind of just triggers that, you know, you go into a dark place where it's like, oh my God, there's so many problems in the world. I'm so small, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, like the world is coming to an end. Let's just burn everything. You cannot see behind that darkness. And when you tell someone, at times it's even hard to understand it yourself because you're just going through the motions and you're like, why is this happening to me? You know, it's not really happening to you. It's just your brain going through it. And when you tell people these things, they go like, umeona movies mingi sana. It's that little snide comments that people make, and it makes you self-doubt, and you just chill tu nayo until one day you get to a point where you have to explode. Now, I'd say this is more common in and it's more serious in men compared to women, because for me, actually, now that I have learned, I have people who are my safe spaces. So when something happens to me, I'll just run to them and I'll go and I'll pour my heart out. But men in this society have been raised to have this kind of thinking where you're not supposed to complain about it. You're not supposed to explain it. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to talk about it. So what do? They shut up. And they bear it all inside. And you know, hata ukiwa na balloon, no matter how big it is, when you blow in air and you keep blowing in air and there is no outlet, eventually it just explodes because it can't hold it in anymore. And you know, sadly, this is what happens. Someone was saying, I saw a Facebook post that kind of really resonated with me. We live in a society where parents think the only way that you can conform to what they want you to conform is by beating you. But then the same parents will go and still complain about police brutality. Where is the difference? If you believe a body has to be beaten in order for it to follow a certain path, don't complain about police brutality, because it is the same mentality. So, like, let's not trivialize these things. And it's very important for parents to kind of set an environment where they are free to have conversation with their children. There is no way I cannot create an conducive environment for conversations with my child, and then later on when they kill themselves from depression, I go out crying and saying, oh, but they did not tell me. I have not created that trust where my child believes if they're feeling some type of way, it's comfortable for them to come and let me know about it. So we have to, it's important to let your friends know that you're there for them, especially the ones who always make you laugh, the ones who always seem like they're the strongest ones. It's important to tell them, but you not only do you say it, you also show it. You know, I am here for you. Create time, call them, text them, just find out what is going on with someone. You know, like, hey, good morning, just checking up on you today. You know, you don't have to offer advice. Sit with them. If they're feeling some type of way, you don't have to talk. Just be there. Just sit with them, you know. Like, let's not turn everything into a joke. Let's not turn everything into a meme. That is what is killing us, because then we end up just trivializing the issue and making it look like
you know,
it's not a big deal.
The one thing about depression is that
you also wrap it up with your final remarks as well.
Is that it is of very big proportions today, and many times we would have thought that these are problems of poverty, but we have depression in some very well-to-do homes, materially, so to speak. And I think it speaks to us to even start questioning, you know, the issue of meaningful work. For example, what is meaningful work? Work that connects to the purpose of the individual, because some of the people that are going through depression in this country, for example, are having some very high and well-paying jobs. And so the issue is not money. Sometimes the issue is, does this individual feel to be contributing to meaningful work? And I think it is a conversation that business leaders must begin to have. CEOs of big corporations must begin to ask themselves, how do we ensure that our employees feel engaged in meaningful work? Because that meaningful work drives a sense of purpose for the individual, and that alone is a big catalyst for fighting depression. It's a long conversation. I agree with my sister here, one that we need to continue having, particularly for the men who feel that it is weak to look for help or to seek for help or to seek for advice, and they begin to try and bear it all only for them to collapse from within. We've seen some very ugly scenes in the city, people jumping off buildings, people hanging themselves, and all these things. And all these things point to depression, because I can tell you for sure that depression accounts for a very big percentage of the suicides that we see in society. So it's a conversation that we need to continue having.
Yeah, and I think she's right with it. She's saying at some point you're in a place where you feel the world is so big, and you're just useless.
Yeah.
You're just one of those accessories in the world. What are your final remarks, Dan Muchemi?
Well, I do agree that depression is a serious problem of large proportion, magnitude, and we all have a role to play in trying to, to help, really, because there is each one of us. If you are out there and you feel okay and you imagine that all your friends, they are fine, and when you scan around, you do not you cannot come across, or you cannot imagine or think of one person out there that could probably be going through depression, then you're part of a problem. Because there must be someone close to you. Yeah. Could be your colleague at work, could be your boss, could be your parent, could be a neighbor, or somewhere in your community that is undergoing depression, and by not helping, because some of the help may not really be, it just takes texting that person, calling them, treating them, telling them it will be okay. And where you can support materially or financially, you should. Otherwise, having to just get surprised and act surprised on Twitter or on social media, well, someone has had to get to probably commit suicide, is really not fair. It is wrong. So we can only be part of the solution by participating, and participating is reaching out to everyone. Let's be friendly. Do not just criticize people out there, also just for the sake. Sometimes we got people who are in positions of influence. By influence, I mean you could be an employer, and there is someone who is complaining somewhere, and you sometimes ignore. It helps to get down to individuals. Just sit, listen, have that one-on-one where possible. Take your phone, call someone, probably could be a casual or an intern or as an employee who could probably be in another department or another country, but you got to reach out, you got to be accessible. I think this is time for all of us to come together and support anyone, even those that seemingly, there are those who seem okay, may not be okay. Just check out for your friends and your neighbors and everyone else out there, so that in case someone, not just in case, there is someone who is going through depression,
there's always
and
someone.
they're waiting for, you could help.
Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. I'll see you again on Monday. Common sense. This is a regular in show, so maybe Muchemi. I hope to see you again. Karibu sana tena.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best as you start off the week and the month. And the things, we wish you very good tidings. Thank you so much, also MARIDADY, for partnering with us.
Thank you so
really
much.
Appreciate. Lucia,
Yes.
karibu tena kwa mwaka mpya. And thanks for also giving us, some insights on depression. I mean, it's things that people don't talk about. And when you get someone who can speak from a point of experience, then it makes more sense. Because what depression, people, it's something that people hide, they think. But there's no shame in it.
There's no shame in it. I actually think, the counseling that I got is one of the best. I actually think people should normalize doing this. Whether you're depressed or not, just go for counseling. Just go and speak to someone.
Watu wanasemanga pia venye wanasema depression ni wadosi, wanasema pia counseling ni wadosi.
Here's the thing. Kuna actually clinics that are offering these services for free. They give you counseling for free. They give you medication for free if you need it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. The tacklers who have been joining us. We also really appreciate you. Thank you for always making time with us. Thank you for sharing, and thank you also for contributing. I saw Julius Weber asked a question here, but because of time I may not be able to touch on it. But maybe on Monday we'll touch it. Ask Gerald, please touch on people duplicating your business, access to financing, how to identify your market and clientele. All right. Maybe we'll start with that, Eric, on Monday. And common sense. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. This is the Tackle, and the Tackle ends now. Bye bye, and see you again tomorrow. Bye.